Everything is about to explode in the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 6. Alliances are shifting, secrets are coming to light, and Bertha Russell is done playing by anyone else's rules. With George still teetering on the edge of financial ruin, Peggy confronting painful truths from her past, and Oscar planning revenge. This episode is packed with power moves, betrayals, and emotional turning points that could change the entire season. But what makes Episode 6 so intense is how every storyline is building toward a collision, one that no character will walk away from unchanged. Bertha Russell is stepping back into her role as a force to be reckoned with, and this time, she's bringing fire. After watching her daughter Gladys be belittled and controlled by Lady Sarah, Episode 6 signals a shift. Bertha is no longer watching from the sidelines. The preview for this episode already gives us a glimpse of her classic, calculated confidence. With her sharp tongue and even sharper strategy, she's on a mission to teach Gladys what it means to survive in this world. But what makes this mother-daughter storyline so powerful is that it mirrors Bertha's own arc. Just like Gladys's, Bertha once faced a society that tried to keep her out. Now, she's preparing her daughter for battle, but will Gladys be able to follow through? The tension reaches its peak when Bertha delivers a line we've heard before. If you want to cook an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. This isn't just a witty callback to George's words from Season 1, it's a warning. Things are about to get broken. Friendships, reputations, and possibly the fragile peace between the Russells and the old money elite. The first look images show Bertha in full armor, dressed in her most dazzling tiara, holding her head high, sitting across from her daughter with a raised glass. That toast isn't just a moment of mother-daughter unity, it's the beginning of a rebellion. A rebellion against the rules that have long tried to cage them. But there's another layer here too. Bertha may be putting on a strong front, but deep down she knows things are cracking at home. George's railroad empire is crumbling. Her social position is vulnerable. And her marriage, though still standing, is under serious pressure. So why is she heading to England now? Because she sees the bigger game. She knows that Gladys's success is a reflection of her own. If Gladys bows to Lady Sarah, Bertha loses not just socially, but emotionally. This isn't just about power anymore. It's about pride. And Bertha Russell has never been more dangerous than when she feels threatened. And yet, there's hope. In her eyes, for all her ambition, Bertha has always wanted one thing: control over her own destiny. In Episode 6, she's grabbing it back. Whether it's the way she arrives in England, uninvited, or how she handles Lady Sarah with a smile that cuts like a knife. Bertha is reminding us that she's not here to be liked, she's here to win. And if that means teaching Gladys how to break the rules, so be it. But how far is too far? And when Gladys starts learning those lessons a little too well, will Bertha still be in control, or will she unleash something she can't stop? This episode doesn't just give Bertha her spotlight, it shows us how much she's willing to sacrifice to protect her vision of the future. Gladys is no longer the shy duchess in training. She's becoming a Russell. And if the tiara on her head is any indication, she's about to show Lady Sarah and the entire British aristocracy that she's not just there to decorate the room. She's there to take it over. While Bertha is battling tradition in England, George Russell is fighting a war of a very different kind, one that threatens to destroy everything he's built. In Episode 6, we see him meeting with none other than JP Morgan. And the expression on George's face says it all. This isn't a negotiation, it's a plea. The once uncheckable titan of industry is losing ground fast. His ambitious rail line project, once a symbol of power and dominance, is now on the brink of collapse. And worse, the vultures are circling. Rivals smell blood. Investors are pulling out. And for the first time in the series, George doesn't have a clear way out. This storyline has been building like a slow-burning fuse since the start of Season 3. The warning signs were there: the failed negotiations, the mounting debts, the dismissive tone from fellow businessmen who once feared him. But now, the fuse is lit, and George is feeling the heat. What makes this part of the episode so thrilling is the way it strips George down to his most vulnerable self. He's not in control anymore. He's reacting, scrambling, calculating, and losing. In past episodes, he's always had Bertha at his side, a partner, equally as cunning, equally as hungry. But now, she's across the ocean. He's alone, with nothing but spreadsheets and speculation to keep him company. But here's where the suspense really starts building. Because there's one name that keeps resurfacing: Larry. George's son, who once seemed uninterested in the family business, might just be the one holding the key to salvation. In earlier episodes, the writers subtly hinted at Larry's growing involvement, especially around the mining operations. And let's not forget how much time was spent talking about those mines being worthless. When a show repeats something over and over, it usually means one thing: that thing is about to matter. So could Larry be the one to realize that those mines actually aren't worthless? Could he swoop in at the last moment and save his father's legacy? It's possible, but don't expect it to happen in episode 6. The pacing of the Gilded Age has always leaned toward a slow unravel, and this feels like a storyline that's going to stretch right to the finale. The writers want us to sweat. They want us to watch George twist in the wind for a while longer, to question whether he'll ever regain his footing. And they want us to ask the ultimate question: what happens to a man who defines himself by his success when he starts to fail? There's also an emotional undercurrent to all of this, because George isn't just losing money, he's losing faith in his partners, in the system, maybe even in himself. And that's dangerous. When someone like George starts doubting himself, he either breaks or he becomes more ruthless than ever before. Will he start cutting corners, betraying allies, lashing out? The man we see in the episode 6 trailer is no longer the calm, confident master of the market. He's panicked, and panic breeds recklessness. But here's where things get even more intriguing, because George's professional downfall might actually push him closer to Bertha. We've seen cracks in their marriage all season long, moments where they felt more like business partners than lovers. But crisis has a strange way of revealing what matters. Bertha, despite all her ambition, still loves George. And George, despite his pride, still leans on Bertha more than he admits. So as everything starts falling apart, will this bring them back together? Or will it be the final fracture that breaks them for good? In one of the mid-season trailer scenes, Bertha is seen at a ball, glowing, radiant, her eyes full of something we haven't seen in a while. That moment, brief as it is, suggests that something shifts by the end. Maybe George does pull through. Maybe Larry steps up. Or maybe Bertha finds a way to save them both. After all, it wouldn't be the first time she used her charm to bend a powerful man to her will. And let's not forget, Bertha's greatest talent isn't just playing the game. It's rewriting the rules entirely. So what does that mean for episode 6? Expect high stakes, sleepless nights, and sharp conversations behind closed doors. George Russell is a man at a crossroads, and whichever path he chooses will reshape not just his family, but the future of New York itself. Because if George falls, the entire Russell empire goes down with him, and something tells me Bertha won't let that happen. Not without a fight. While Bertha is in England and George is in boardrooms, Marian Brooke is facing a different kind of crisis, one that's quietly breaking her heart. What began as a fairy tale engagement with Larry Russell is now unraveling, thread by thread. And it all starts with a secret. In episode 6, Marian finally learned something she was never supposed to. Larry went to the Haymarket, not the day before the engagement, not after, but on the very day they got engaged. And he didn't tell her. He didn't even hint at it. And now that silence is echoing in her mind louder than any excuse could dot. It's easy to say Larry didn't do anything wrong. The audience has seen what Marian hasn't. We know Larry didn't flirt, didn't drink too much, didn't betray her, but Marian doesn't know that. All she knows is that on the most important day of her life, the man she agreed to marry disappeared and never told her where he went. That's not just a mistake, it's a breach of trust. And for Marian, who has already been burned by misplaced faith in the past, this feels like history repeating itself. She let her guard down, she believed in someone, and now she's wondering if that belief was a terrible mistake. The brilliance of the Gilded Age lies in its emotional realism. Marian's reaction isn't overblown. It's not dramatic. It's deeply human. Her heartbreak doesn't come from what Larry did, it comes from what he didn't do. The silence, the evasion, the absence of explanation. And in a society where appearances mean everything, the fact that Larry was spotted at the Haymarket environment full of vice and temptation makes it even worse. It doesn't matter what didn't happen. It only matters what might have happened. Gossip travels faster than truth in New York. And Marian is beginning to feel the weight of that dot. And what makes this even more tragic is how much Marian truly believed in this relationship. She believed Larry was different, not just from other men, but from his own family. She believed he saw her, valued her, respected her. And for a while, we believed it too. Larry has always seemed like the soft-spoken, thoughtful counterbalance to his powerful parents. But now, he's off-screen, unreachable, and unexplainable. And that absence speaks volumes. When the people who love us are silent, we start to Fill in the blanks with Ferrand. Marian is doing just that. What's more, the episode 6 preview teases that Marian begins questioning everything about her decision. In one scene from the mid-season trailer, she's seen crying, saying she trusted the wrong person again. That line, it's devastating. It connects all the way back to season 1, to her previous heartbreaks, and reminds us how fragile her trust really is. She isn't just hurt, she's wounded by the thought that she let herself believe in something that wasn't real. That maybe she's destined to repeat her mother's life alone, quiet, and constantly questioning her own worth. There's a chance, of course, that Larry could fix everything. Jack was with him at the Haymarket. Jack could vouch for him, could step in and explain that nothing inappropriate happened. But will that even matter anymore? Marian's not just dealing with a factual issue, she's dealing with emotional damage. Once doubt creeps in, it's hard to push it back out. And right now, that doubt is wrapping itself around her heart like a vine. And let's not ignore the deeper symbolism here. The Haymarket isn't just a location, it's a metaphor. It represents temptation, chaos, unpredictability. Marian is a woman raised on values of decency, stability, and controlled environments. The idea that her fiancé chose to spend time in a place like that, especially without telling her, shakes her understanding of who he really is. Is Larry more like George than we thought? Is he reckless, secretive, blinded by his own privilege? Or is he just naive, unaware of how his choices affect the woman he claims to love? The timing couldn't be worse. Bertha isn't around to mediate. George is distracted. And Marian, she's isolated. The walls are closing in, and her usual allies are too wrapped up in their own problems to see what she's going through. The loneliness is setting in. And if there's one thing the Gilded Age does well, it's showing how quiet pain can be the most destructive. Marian doesn't shout. She doesn't rage. She withdraws. She questions herself. And that is where the danger lies. Because if she loses faith in Larry and in herself, this relationship could fall apart before it even begins. We're watching the slow disintegration of something that once felt like the season's most stable romance, and it's heartbreaking. Because Marian doesn't want luxury. She doesn't want titles. She just wants honesty. And the person she thought would give her that might not be who she believed he was. This storyline is setting the stage for one of the season's most emotional payoffs. Whether Larry redeems himself or the engagement shatters completely, Marian is going to come out of this changed, stronger, yes, but more guarded. And if Larry hopes to win her back, he's going to have to do more than explain where he was. He's going to have to prove that he's worthy of the one thing she values most, truth, and in a world built on lies and appearances, that may be harder than he ever expected. As Marian quietly crumbles under the weight of betrayal, another woman stronger, wiser, but no less burdened, is preparing to face her own reckoning. Peggy Scott has always walked a delicate line between worlds. The rigid expectations of her race, the stifling judgment of New York society, and the ever-present shadow of her past. But in episode 6, everything she's been holding back is finally forced into the light. For the first time, Peggy is no longer running from the truth, she's speaking it. And the consequences may be more painful than even she expects. In this episode, Peggy confides in Dr. William Kirkland, the man who has slowly, quietly captured her heart. Their connection has grown steadily this season, built not on grand gestures, but on shared values, mutual respect, and unspoken understanding. But now, the time for subtlety is over. Peggy decides to tell him the story she's carried in silence. The child she lost, the pain she endured, and the choices she was never allowed to make. This isn't just about honesty, it's about reclaiming her narrative. Because for so long, her story has been shaped by what others assumed or whispered. Now, she speaks it herself. And in doing so, she reclaims her power. But even as she finds the courage to open up to William, another storm is brewing, and its name is Elizabeth Kirkland. William's mother has been cold toward Peggy from the beginning. But in episode 6, that quiet frost becomes a brutal freeze. Elizabeth is no longer hiding her disapproval. She doesn't want Peggy as a daughter-in-law, not because of anything Peggy has done, but because of who she is. A black woman, an ambitious writer, a survivor of scandal, a woman who refuses to bow her head. And in Elizabeth's world, that is unforgivable. What's chilling is how the Gilded Age portrays Elizabeth's prejudice not as loud or violent, but as calm, calculated, and dressed in civility. She doesn't yell, she doesn't insult Peggy outright. She uses innuendo, subtle digs, polite dismissals, but behind every word is a message. You do not belong here. And when Elizabeth learns about Peggy's past, when she hears about the child, the heartbreak, and the scandal, she seizes it like a weapon. Not because she truly cares about William's happiness, but because now she has evidence to justify her hatred. This is the moment that cuts the deepest, because it isn't just about class or color anymore. It's about pain. Peggy's most vulnerable truth, the thing she barely speaks of even to her closest friends, is now being used against her. It's a betrayal wrapped in condescension, and it stings, but Peggy does not break. She has weathered too much, she has fought too hard, and in this episode, we may finally see her push back not with rage, but with dignity, because Peggy knows exactly who she is. And no amount of scorn from a woman like Elizabeth can take that from her. The real question is, what will William do? So far, he's been passive. Respectful, yes. Kind, certainly, but passive. And now, that won't be enough. In episode 6, he's caught between two forces: his mother's expectations and Peggy's truth. And his choice will determine not just the future of their relationship, but the kind of man he truly is. Will he finally stand up to Elizabeth and say, "This is the woman I love, and your approval doesn't matter"? Or will he stay silent, letting his mother's poison infect what he and Peggy have built? There's a scene hinted at in the trailer that shows William standing silently as Elizabeth unleashes her cold judgment. And Peggy is watching, waiting, hoping, because she knows that love is not just about words, it's about action. And if William cannot defend her now, in front of the one person who disrespects her most, then what kind of future can they possibly have? This is the defining test of their relationship, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But there's another layer to this story, a quieter, more personal one, because as painful as Elizabeth's judgment is, it also forces Peggy to confront something she's avoided for too long: her own sense of worth. She has always carried herself with strength and grace, but deep down, part of her still wonders if she deserves to be loved after all. She's endured the loss of her child, the end of her relationship with Mr. Fortune, the whispers behind her back. They've all left scars, and Elizabeth's rejection threatens to reopen them. But here's the twist. Instead of shrinking, Peggy grows. She doesn't run, she doesn't apologize. She stands tall, because the pain that once silenced her has now become her armor. She knows she is not defined by what happened to her. She is defined by what she survived, and that makes her stronger than anyone in the Kirkland household. This storyline is one of the most emotionally charged of the entire season. It's not flashy, it's not scandalous, but it's real. It speaks to the quiet battles women fight every day to be seen, to be respected, to be loved without condition. Peggy's journey is a reflection of that fight, and in episode 6, we watch her take another step forward. Not because someone saved her, but because she saved herself. Whether William stands with her or not, Peggy's truth is now out in the open, and once truth is spoken, it cannot be silenced. She may lose this relationship, she may even walk away, but she will not walk away with shame, because this time, she told her own story. And that, in a world built on secrets and lies, is the most powerful thing a woman can do.